Hello everyone and welcome back into the GSMC Dead Ball Sports Podcast, brought to you as always by the GSMC Sports Network. My name is Christopher Shepard. Thank you all for tuning in on this lovely Friday afternoon. But even though it is a lovely Friday afternoon, it is semi-bittersweet because this will be my final episode, not just with the GSMC Dead Ball Sports Podcast, but with the GSMC Sports Network. It truly has been such an incredible journey, a wild ride, my first ever experience, kind of having my own show talking all things sports, whether it be starting off talking all things fantasy sports, transitioning into now talking about every sport you can possibly think of. It has truly been an incredible ride, so thank you all first and foremost for joining me through this journey with GSMC. I really appreciate all the people who have commented on my videos, left their opinions in the comment section while I'm live streaming. Each and every single one of you has contributed to this journey in a positive manner, so I thank you very much for that. I thank everyone around GSMC, and I'm going to do something different here. I'm not going to tell you to like, follow, and subscribe because I've already told you 1,000 times before. What I am going to tell you is to go show some love to my former co-workers who are now going to be my former co-workers because they have been doing incredible things with this network for even longer than I have. You have two established veterans still there in Jeremy Lapidus and Kenneth Grunfelder doing their own sports shows as well. Very knowledgeable guys. I wish them nothing but the best in their careers. And then a kind of new guy on the block, Matt Quinn. Go check him out. He is our new host of the GSMC Football Podcast. Show him some love. Then we'll always have our main man, Eric Rodriguez, as he's known around GSMC, Evil E, holding it down on Mondays and Tuesdays with the GSMC Wrestling Laureate Podcast. So still a lot of talented people doing great things at the network. So I ask you and implore you really to go support them because I truly appreciate what they are doing as well. But we have a great show ahead. We're going to be talking a lot of MLB, we'll be doing some NHL, we'll be doing some basketball, and concluding with perhaps my favorite sport to talk about, as always, European football, as they call it over there. Without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Thank you all for the journey. We have one more show to get through, so let's kick it off right. Let's talk about the Dodgers for a second. We've talked about how the Mets and the Yankees could win the World Series this year. Let's talk about the defending champions, because this roster did not get any weaker. And in fact, a lot of you might be skeptical as to why I'm continuously hammering home the point that this team can repeat. And I don't need another 12-minute segment from me. But I just want to show you how well run an organization any sport can be when everyone, whether it be the front office, the players, all on down throughout the organization, invest in a team properly. This is not a team that suddenly caught fire. This is a team that has been around in the MLB for the past decade and a half and will continue to do so because they continuously stockpile the talent to do it. So without further ado, let's talk about why it's not so far-fetched to think that the Dodgers can repeat this season. Let's start off with the crazy and perhaps incredible to several off-season that they were able to manage. Let's start off with the pitching, because Roki Sasaki is someone who comes into LA with so much experience in the Japanese professional league, but is still viewed as an amateur, may not even be on the major league roster immediately. There might be a chance where the Dodgers keep him in the minor leagues for the time being, call him up potentially mid-season, and he would be a regular in the rotation. But because he was so willing to enter free agency in the MLB as an international amateur, and potentially being someone who the Dodgers grow a little bit before he enters this very star-studded rotation, that should scare a lot of people. Because the fact that they were able to get someone who's already so polished and has achieved so much abroad and bring him in and potentially not even start him right away is crazy to behold. And oh yeah, he's not the only pitcher they signed. Potentially one of the best pitchers of this generation, Blake Snell, a lefty that they can utilize in so many different ways at the top of the lineup. Bring him into the squad as well. And then, when you think about something that the Dodgers do really well, it's retain talent. This team is able to retain talent because they want to remain with the culture and identity the Dodgers have built for this past decade and a half. They're able to retain Tommy Edman, one of the best defensive players in this squad, Kike Hernandez, the ultimate glue guy, and several other players as well. These guys may not even be the best players on this team when all is said and done, but they are role players who buy into the Dodgers culture so much and have ingrained themselves within this squad that it would be insane to think of an LA Dodgers team or lineup without them in it. So that just goes to show how much the front office appreciates even the role players on this squad. Obviously, you have a great top three in your batting order as well with Freddie, Mookie Betts, and Shohei Ohtani, who now is also pitching himself to further add misery and compound all these opposing teams' misery to the order. So you have such a star-studded team. But the incredible thing the Dodgers were able to do is add depth to this team. When you think about depth for a team like the LA Dodgers, they probably don't even need depth to win upwards of, say, 95 to 100 games. But they added it. They added Michael Conforto to the outfield and Ha-Seong Kim to the infield. So now you have so much talent in both the in and out fields that you can make two LA Dodgers lineups. Maybe one would miss the playoffs just because there are a couple players who may not be able to carry the load for a team throughout a 162-game season. But legitimately, two Dodgers lineups could come out of the roster they've built and constructed. So kudos to GM Andrew Friedman, first and foremost. An incredible front office general here with the Dodgers who was able to construct this team in his own image and really extend their championship window far longer than any MLB team could possibly hope for. I mean, yes, you think, well, in COVID, when they won that championship in that shortened season, it wasn't for real, and it took them until now to win their first quote-unquote legitimate championship since the early 80s. But think about this, though. They've had a stranglehold in the AL West, which, yes, could get more competitive as the years go on, but they've won this division 12 years straight. They still are a team that once they get to the postseason have the experience now to continue to win championships. And even though a lot of people would probably think they should have won more earlier in this quote-unquote dynastic run, it doesn't matter as long as you can continue the longevity of this championship window. Because that's what's important to me. If you're a baseball team and you have this level of talent, you have to think that right now you are untouchable. And that's what the Dodgers truly think. By being able to add depth to an already elite team, both offensively and defensively, be able to retain perhaps the top three players, or at least hitters, in Major League Baseball, in my humble opinion, in Freeman, Betts, and Ohtani. To be able to add a guy from Japan who technically might be willing to start his career in the minor leagues and one of the best pitchers of his generation in Sasaki and Snell, to have a bullpen that could dip into the well of starting players if need be, but is still deep enough to win you baseball games late in the contest with guys like Treinen and such. I really believe that it's not far-fetched to think that the Dodgers will have a stranglehold on at the very least the National League for the next 5 to 10 years. Yes, we have to consider the Mets signing Soto, having their own approach. You have to consider, in fact, most of the teams in the NL East. The Phillies. How about the Braves? Maybe even some teams in the NL Central who approach this from a more small ball aesthetic might continue to rise. The Brewers could still stick around. And then, within your own division, a team like Arizona definitely projects to be a strong contender for years to come in the National League. But I want to hammer home that if the LA Dodgers were to split their team in half, this would still be a team that would dominate the league. And here's why. Even if injuries befall them along the way, I wouldn't be too concerned unless it's someone in their pitching staff, so to speak, because that pitching staff does worry me a little bit in terms of how long some of these pitchers have sat out over recent years, especially guys like Glasnow and Kershaw. But in the grand scheme of things, this Dodgers team did not go out into free agency and say, we can continue to get better just because. They know that they are the best team in baseball on paper and potentially on the field. But they want to ensure that everyone is reminded of that. And so, by building this juggernaut, you would have to think that anything outside of, at the very least, a run to potentially the NLCS and the World Series and maybe being runners-up would be a disappointment for LA this season. That's just how potent we've come to see them. So ultimately, even though it is frustrating to hear the LA Dodgers, all the hype surrounding them, if you're not a fan of them, it's still a team that has to be on everyone's lips at a certain point in time and will be throughout the next 5 to 10 years. But let me know what you think of this Dodgers squad and their chances of being the first back-to-back champions since the 98 to 2000 Yankees, because coming up next, we're going to transition to a more broad topic, talking about the 5 most desperate teams to win a World Series, the teams whose championship windows are seemingly wide open, but still need to win in order to cement themselves as true contenders for years to come. We'll be right back after this short break to continue on my last show.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign.